Hello, my name is Carlos and I have an incredible story to share with you. A story that completely changed my life and my perception of existence. Before I begin, I want you to ask yourself, have you ever wondered what happens after death? Have you ever wondered if there is something beyond this life? Well, I spent most of my life believing that there was nothing beyond what we can see and touch. But everything changed on one fateful night that I will never forget. Since I was a child, I've always been very skeptical. I grew up in a non-religious family and from an early age, I learned to question everything around me. Science was my religion, and I firmly believed that everything could be explained through it. I remember being only 8 years old when I told my parents that I did not believe in God. They were surprised, but they respected my opinion. As I grew older, my skepticism only increased. At school, I was known as the atheist boy, always ready to debate anyone who mentioned religion or spirituality. I was proud of my logic and rationality, convinced that I had all the answers. But the universe has a funny way of surprising us, doesn't it? And that is exactly what happened to me. At 35 years old, I was a successful man, a respected engineer, married with 2 children. My life seemed perfect on the outside, but on the inside, I felt an inexplicable emptiness. Something was missing, but I didn't know what. It was on a Friday night that everything changed. I was on my way home after a long day of work, eager to start the weekend with my family. The traffic was heavy and I felt tired and irritable. That's when it happened. A car speeding through a red light smashed into my vehicle head-on. The impact was brutal. I remember feeling an excruciating pain all over my body, and then nothing. Everything went dark. For a moment, I thought, that's it, it's over, there's nothing more. But I could not have been more wrong. Suddenly, I felt myself floating. The pain had completely disappeared, and I found myself hovering over my own body, watching the accident scene from above. Paramedics arrived quickly, trying to revive me. I wanted to shout, to say that I was okay, that I was there, but no one could hear or see me. Then I noticed a bright light beside me. It was the most intense and beautiful light I had ever seen, yet strangely, it did not hurt my eyes. I felt irresistibly drawn to it, as if it were calling me. Without hesitating, I let myself be carried toward that wonderful light. What happened next is something that words can hardly describe, but I will do my best to share it with you. Prepare yourself, because what I am about to reveal will change your perspective on life and death forever. As I crossed that intense light, I was enveloped by a sensation of infinite peace and love. It was as if every atom of my being was vibrating in perfect harmony with the universe. All the fears, doubts, and worries I had ever had simply dissolved. I found myself in a place I can only describe as paradise. It wasn't a physical place as we know it, but a state of pure existence. The colors were more vivid than anything I had ever seen on Earth, and there was a celestial music that seemed to come from all directions at once. That's when I realized I wasn't alone. Beings of light, radiant and loving, surrounded me. They had no defined form, but I could feel their presence as real and tangible as anything I had ever experienced in life. One of these beings approached me. Its light was so intense that, for a moment, I thought it would blind me. But on the contrary, I felt completely embraced and understood. This being, which I instinctively recognized as my spiritual guide, began to communicate with me, not through words, but through pure thoughts and emotions. "Welcome, Carlos," said the being. "Are you ready for the revelation?" I wanted to answer, but I realized I didn't need to. My thoughts and feelings were immediately understood. The being of light continued. "Throughout your life, you have sought answers through science and logic. That was not a mistake, for the pursuit of knowledge is noble. But there are truths that go beyond what the human mind can comprehend while it is bound to the physical plane." At that moment, I felt a wave of understanding wash over me. It was as if all the wisdom of the universe were being poured into my consciousness. I could see the interconnection of all things, from the smallest atom to the largest galaxy. Everything was part of a greater plan, a cosmic design of unimaginable beauty and complexity. The spiritual guide continued, Carlos, you are experiencing only a fraction of what exists beyond the veil of physical reality. There are infinite levels of existence, each one more wonderful than the previous. Death, as you understand it on Earth, is just a transition, a birth into a higher reality. I was amazed. All my previous beliefs, all my skepticism now seemed so limited. How could I have been so blind? How could I have denied the existence of something so grand and beautiful? But the being of light, sensing my thoughts, reassured me, "Do not blame yourself, Carlos. Your journey on Earth, with all its doubts and questions, was exactly as it should be. Every soul has its own path of discovery and evolution." Then I had an even more surprising revelation. The guide showed me visions of past lives, not only on Earth, but on other planets and dimensions. I could see that my soul was much older and wiser than I could ever have imagined. I saw myself as a priest in ancient Egypt, as a Tibetan monk meditating in the mountains, as a scientist during the Renaissance, and even as a form of life on a distant planet, so different from Earth that I can barely describe it. Each of these lives had a purpose, a lesson to be learned. And now, in this moment of cosmic clarity, I could see how all these experiences connected, forming the fabric of my spiritual evolution. But the journey was far from over. What happened next left me even more perplexed and amazed. Prepare yourself, because what I am about to reveal will challenge everything you thought you knew about reality. The spiritual guide, sensing my astonishment and curiosity, said, "Carlos, now that you have seen a glimpse of the vastness of your own existence, are you ready to understand the greater purpose behind it all?" Before I could process the question, I was enveloped by a new wave of energy. This time, I felt as if I were diving into the very heart of the universe. I saw the creation of galaxies, the birth and death of stars, the cosmic dance of planets. All of this happened in an instant and, at the same time, seemed to last for eternities. "The universe," explained the guide, "is an infinite playground for the experience and evolution of souls. Every life, every choice, every moment of joy or pain contributes to the expansion of universal consciousness." Then, something incredible happened. I saw myself not only as Carlos, the skeptical engineer, but as an integral part of this universal consciousness. It was as if I were, at the same time, a drop in the ocean and the entire ocean itself. The guide continued, "You, on Earth, often wonder about the purpose of life. You question good and evil, suffering and joy. The truth is that all of this is part of a grand plan for spiritual evolution." At that moment, I had a vision that took my breath away. I saw Earth, not as the physical planet we know, but as a living, pulsating being, full of energy and consciousness. I could see the energy lines surrounding it, the so-called Earth meridians, and how they connected with every living being on the planet. Earth, explained the guide, is a school for souls. Every challenge, every experience is carefully planned for spiritual growth. What you call evil or suffering are, in fact, opportunities for learning and evolution. I was shocked by this revelation. How could suffering be part of a divine plan? The guide, sensing my confusion, clarified, "Carlos, imagine a child learning to walk. They fall, get hurt, cry. But each fall makes them stronger, more determined. In the same way, life's hardships are opportunities to strengthen the spirit, to develop compassion, love, and wisdom." I began to understand. All the pain I had experienced in life, all the doubts and struggles had a greater purpose. They were not punishments, but lessons carefully planned for my spiritual growth. Then the guide showed me something even more surprising. I saw how every thought, every action, created waves of energy that spread throughout the universe. A simple act of kindness could illuminate entire galaxies. A thought of love could heal wounds in dimensions we didn't even know existed. "That is why," said the guide, "love is the most powerful force in the universe. It is not just a feeling, but the very essence of creation." At that moment, I felt a wave of love so intense that I thought I would disintegrate. It was an unconditional, pure love that embraced everything and everyone. I realized that this love was always present, always available, but we, in our earthly existence, often close ourselves off to it. Then the guide asked me a question that changed everything. Carlos, are you ready to see the face of God? I was stunned. I, who had spent my entire life denying the existence of a supreme being, was about to have the greatest revelation of all. What happened next is something that human words can scarcely begin to describe, but I will do my best to share it with you. Prepare yourself, because what I am about to reveal will challenge and expand your understanding of the nature of reality and divinity. When the guide mentioned seeing the face of God, I must confess I felt a mix of fear and expectation. As someone who had spent their entire life denying the existence of a supreme being, I didn't know what to expect. Would it be an imposing figure seated on a celestial throne, a being of light so brilliant that it would outshine everything around it? What happened was something completely different and infinitely deeper. In an instant, I was enveloped by a light that seemed to come from all directions at once. It wasn't a light that could be seen with the eyes, but one that was felt with every fiber of your being. It was as if every atom in the universe was singing in perfect harmony, creating a symphony of love and pure consciousness. And then I understood. There was no face of God to be seen, because God was not a being separate from everything else. God was everything. It was the very existence, the consciousness that permeates and animates all of creation. In that moment of cosmic clarity, I saw myself as a unique expression of that divine consciousness. Every person, every animal, every plant, every speck of dust in the universe, all was a manifestation of that same consciousness, exploring different forms of existence. The guide, sensing my understanding, explained, Carlos, what you are experiencing is the true nature of reality. What you call God is not an external being, but the very essence of everything that exists. You are not separate from this divinity. You are it. It was as if a veil had been lifted. All the religions, all the spiritual philosophies I had studied and rejected throughout my life suddenly made sense, not in their specific dogmas or rituals, but in their fundamental essence, the search for connection with something greater. The guide continued, Carlos, this understanding that you are having now is the ultimate goal of all spiritual evolution. Every soul, through countless lives and experiences, is on a journey of returning to the consciousness of that fundamental unity. But then, a question arose in my mind. If we are all one with this divine consciousness, why do we live in a world of apparent separation and suffering? The guide, once again anticipating my question, replied, Separation is an illusion necessary for experience and growth. Just as an actor momentarily forgets who they are to fully live their role, souls forget their true divine nature, temporarily to fully experience human life. This explanation illuminated so much for me. I understood that the purpose of life was not to achieve some future state of perfection, but to fully experience the here and now with all its joys and challenges. Every moment, every interaction, every choice was an opportunity for divine consciousness to know and express itself in a new way. I saw how love, compassion, and kindness were not just moral virtues, but direct expressions of that divine consciousness. When we love, when we help someone, we are literally allowing the divine to flow through us and touch the world. But the revelation did not stop there. What I saw next further expanded my understanding of the nature of reality and our role in it. Prepare yourself, because what I'm about to share may fundamentally change the way you see the world and yourself. As I absorbed these cosmic truths, the guide led me to a new revelation. Carlos, he said, now that you understand the fundamental unity of all existence, are you ready to understand the power of creation that resides in each of you? Suddenly, I saw myself floating above Earth, but it wasn't the Earth as we know it. It was as if I could see all the lines of probability, all the possible futures unfolding simultaneously. The guide explained, every thought, every emotion, every choice you make on Earth creates waves of energy that shape reality. You are literally co-creators of the universe. I was stunned by this revelation. How could this be possible? How could our small everyday actions have such a great impact? Watch, said the guide. Then I saw how a simple act of kindness, A smile to a stranger, a word of encouragement to a friend, created a wave of positive energy that spread, affecting not only the immediate recipient, but also everyone that person interacted with, creating a domino effect of positivity that extended far beyond what we could imagine. Similarly, I saw how negative thoughts, selfish actions, or cruel words created waves of dissonant energy that caused disturbances in the fabric of reality. "You have far more power than you imagine," continued the guide. "Each of you has the power to shape not only your own lives, but the collective destiny of humanity and the planet." This understanding hit me like a lightning bolt. All my life, I had felt small and insignificant in the face of the vast universe. Now I understood that each one of us carries within us the power of a creator. Then the guide showed me something even more astonishing. I saw how the collective thoughts and emotions of humanity created energy fields around the planet. Areas of conflict and war appeared like dark clouds, while regions of peace and harmony shone with golden light. "The collective consciousness of humanity," explained the guide, "has the power to shape the destiny of the planet. When a critical number of people elevate their consciousness, focusing on love, compassion, and unity, it creates a powerful change in physical reality." Then I saw visions of the future, multiple possible futures. In some, humanity continued on a path of conflict and destruction. In others, there was a great shift in consciousness, leading to a future of global harmony and cooperation. "The future," said the guide, "is not set in stone. It is shaped by the collective choices of humanity. Every person has a crucial role in this process." I then understood that my mission, our mission, was much greater than I had ever imagined. It wasn't just about living our individual lives, but about consciously contributing to the evolution of the planetary consciousness. The guide continued, "Carlos, you will return to Earth with this understanding. Your mission will be to share these truths, not through preaching or dogma, but by living them. Every act of love, every moment of conscious presence, every choice aligned with the greater good not only affects the world around you, it literally shapes reality." I felt an enormous responsibility, but also a deep sense of purpose and joy. Finally, I understood the true meaning of life. But before I could return, the guide had one final revelation to share with me, a truth so deep and transformative that it would forever change the way I, and potentially all of humanity, would see reality. "Prepare yourself, because what I am about to share may be the key to a radical change in human consciousness." The guide, sensing that I was ready for the final revelation, said, "Carlos, there is one last truth you need to understand before returning. It is something that will challenge everything you thought you knew about the nature of reality." I braced myself, imagining that after everything I had experienced, nothing more could surprise me. I was wrong. "The reality you know," the guide began, "the physical universe, linear time, even this spiritual experience you are having now, all of it is a creation of the collective consciousness." I was perplexed. "What does that mean?" The guide continued, "Imagine the universal consciousness as a vast ocean of infinite potentialities. Within this ocean, bubbles of reality are created, entire universes, each with its own physical laws, dimensions, and forms of life. The reality you know is one of those bubbles." I tried to absorb this information as the guide went on. "You are not simply living in a pre-existing universe. You are, collectively, creating this universe every moment. Every observation, every thought, every shared belief solidifies and shapes the nature of your reality. It was as if the ground had been pulled out from under my feet, metaphorically speaking, of course, since I no longer had a physical body. All my life, I had believed in the solidity and immutability of physical laws. Now, I was being told that these laws were, in fact, a collective consensus of consciousness." The guide, sensing my confusion, offered an analogy. "Think of reality as a collective dream. In a dream, the laws of reality can change as the dreamer's consciousness changes. Similarly, as the collective consciousness of humanity evolves, the very laws that govern your reality can transform." I began to understand the profound implications of this. If reality was malleable, if it was a creation of the collective consciousness, then the potential for transformation was infinitely greater than we had ever imagined. That is why, continued the guide, the elevation of consciousness is so crucial. As more and more people awaken to this truth, the potential to reshape reality in profound and positive ways increases exponentially. Then I saw visions of a future where humanity had awakened to this truth. It was a world almost unrecognizable, a world where the physical limitations we knew had been transcended, where instant healing was possible, where abundance was the norm, and where telepathic connection among all forms of life was a daily reality. This, said the guide, is the potential that awaits humanity. It is not a guaranteed destiny, but a possibility that can be realized through collective conscious evolution. I then understood that my mission, our mission, was much deeper than I had ever imagined. It wasn't just about living a good life or doing good. It was about awakening to our true nature as co-creators of reality and using that power consciously for the greater good. The guide then told me that it was time to return. Remember, Carlos Garcin, he said, you are not coming back to spread a message. You are coming back to be the message. Live this truth. Be the change you wish to see in the world. Every act of love, every moment of conscious presence, every choice aligned with the greater good not only affects the world around you, it literally shapes reality. With those words, I felt myself being pulled back. The intense light began to fade, and I found myself once again hovering over my body at the scene of the accident. I opened my eyes to see paramedics working frantically. I heard one of them shout, "He's back! We have a pulse!" And so I returned. I returned with a purpose, with an understanding that changed everything. I returned to share not just a story, but a fundamental truth about the nature of reality and our role in it. My friends, what I have shared with you today is not just my story. It is a call to awaken, a call to recognize the incredible power that resides in each of us, a call to consciously co-create a reality of love, compassion, and unity. Remember, you are not just a passive observer of the universe. You are an active creator. Every thought, every emotion, every action shapes not only your personal reality, but contributes to the collective reality we all share. So I invite you, awaken to your true nature, recognize the divine power that resides within you, and use that power consciously, with love and wisdom, to create a world that reflects the infinite beauty and potential that exists within each of us. This is not just my story, it is our story. And together, we can write it in a way that will transform not only our individual lives, but the destiny of all humanity and the planet. Thank you for listening. May this revelation awaken in you the same sense of wonder, purpose, and infinite possibility that it awakened in me. The future is in our hands. Let's create it together, with love, consciousness, and courage.